The Putin and Kremlin opposition leader Alexei Navalny has just given his first interview after recovering from a toxic nerve agent attack which allegedly came from Putin himself. He's been recuperating at a hospital in Germany, but now that he's beginning to feel better, he's saying that he's going to return to Russia as soon as he's fit to finish what he started, which is a very brave statement from someone who allegedly was just attacked by the Kremlin. Angela Merkel has been visiting Navalny in the hospital to show support and sympathy, and now she's announcing that it was indeed an attempted murder and that Russia must cooperate with the investigation that Germany is doing. Doctors from Sweden, France and a few other countries have confirmed that this was indeed the toxic nerve agent previously used by the Kremlin. Now, the Kremlin is saying that this was an attack carried out to make it look like they did it, but it was actually carried out by the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency in the United States. So with mounting evidence against the Kremlin, will Merkel take action? Well, that's a big fat no, because while all of this is going on, Germany and Russia are creating a massive new gas pipeline running all the way from Germany to Russia, the so-called Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Both nations stand to make a fortune from the new pipeline, so even though the rhetoric might be very tough on Russia, I'm almost certain that the actions won't be. In today's video, we will take a look at this whole mess and dive into the details. So stay with me, we begin right after the intro. Alright guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Soren. So just before we begin, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who subscribed to my channel. I just hit 600 subscribers, and even though that's a very small achievement for most of YouTubers, it's a really big deal for me. So thank you so much for having subscribed to the channel. It really means a lot to me. Alright, so ever since Navalny came out of his toxic-induced coma, he hasn't really talked to the media about what happened, but that all changed today. So he gave this interview with a German newspaper called Der Spiegel, which I tried to read, but I'm not sure I got everything right, so I'm finding this English article about the same thing from another German newspaper, the DW. Before we read part of this article, I just want to say for those of you guys that don't really know anything about this at all, Navalny is the biggest political opposition right now in Russia to both Putin and the Kremlin. He's been very critical of both Putin, his administration, how they handle things, protests and everything, and the Kremlin. So he's been an opposition leader for quite some time, but obviously recently, in the beginning of last month, he was poisoned allegedly by the Kremlin, or by the orders of Putin, right? So let's read what this article says. Alexei Navalny blames Vladimir Putin for poisoning. I will not give Putin the gift of not returning to Russia, Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny told a German magazine as he continues his recovery in Berlin. The head of Russia's Duma claims Putin saved Navalny's life. So obviously the Duma is trying to turn this story on its head, saying that they actually were trying to save him, right? In the article, Navalny goes on to say, I say that Putin was behind the attack and I do not have other versions of what happened. Navalny, who was flown to Berlin for treatment following the August 20 incident, told the German news magazine Der Spiegel. He received treatment in Berlin's Charité hospital before being discharged in September. Germany, which currently holds the EU's rotating presidency, has said toxicology tests show Navalny was poisoned by the military-grade nerve agent Novichok. France and Sweden have independently corroborated Germany's findings. So at least for now, he's in the German hospital. But he also says, not returning would mean that Putin has achieved his aim, and my job now is to remain fearless, he said. I will not give Putin the gift of not returning to Russia, he said, adding that his task is to get fit as soon as possible so that I can go back. I do not want to be the opposition leader in exile, he stressed. So those are some very strong words from Navalny here. He is obviously convinced that the Kremlin is carrying out these attacks. They have been known to use this Novichok nerve agent in the past also, most recently in the UK, where a couple of people were hit by this nerve agent. They didn't die, but someone who just was like a bystander actually died from the attack itself. Let's see what the Kremlin has to say about the whole issue. Moscow has so far firmly denied allegations of involvement in Navalny's poisoning and accused Western leaders of launching a disinformation campaign over the opposition leader's illness. On Thursday, the Kremlin said allegations that Putin was responsible for the attack are baseless. It accused the US Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, of working with Navalny. The head of Russia's lower house of parliament, I'm not going to have an easy time with this, Vyacheslav Volodin, I think, also retorted that Putin had saved Navalny's life. Alright, so I kind of have two thoughts on this issue. On one hand, it seems a bit weird that the Kremlin would be using a toxic nerve agent that historically has been tied so well together with the Kremlin. It seems a little too weird, like it's a little too obvious, almost like you don't even have to investigate. This is clearly us. We want the world to know for some reason, right? On the other hand, it could be the Kremlin sending this very clear message that we won't tolerate any opposition to the powers in place in Russia, and obviously that's what this story and a few other stories are saying. I just want you to understand that there are a lot of powers who would like to question the German-Russia relationship, including the US, who have officially said that they do not approve of Germany dealing that much with Russia. Right, so this article from Euronews is reporting on how Merkel has been visiting Navalny in the hospital while he's been there in Germany. And obviously Merkel is going to follow the most likely version of what happened. The article says, German Chancellor Angela Merkel, who visited Navalny during his hospital stay, called the poisoning an attempted murder aimed at silencing the Kremlin critic and has demanded Russia cooperate with the investigation. So right from the beginning, Angela Merkel has been pretty consistent on her statements of Navalny, right from when he entered the hospital in Germany up until very recently. She was very tough in her words against Russia if they found out that Russia actually did do this. That led people to think that the new pipeline between Germany and Russia could be in jeopardy. So this title from the BBC reads, Nord Stream 2, the name of the gas pipeline. Why Germany may pull plug on Russian pipeline. But right when she made those statements, a bunch of politicians and CEOs of huge companies stepped onto the stage. It's always good to see CEOs being really concerned about international relationships, right? And that made her change her mind, all for the better of the German people, right? I try not to dive too much into conspiratorial waters because there's a bunch of YouTube censor sharks in those waters. But the US has openly stated that they criticized this pipeline agreement, openly stated that they didn't like it. Just to emphasize how big this pipeline deal is, there's more than 100 companies included in the whole deal, building the pipeline after it's been built to transport all the goods and all of that. And it spans more than 12 nations. By the way, including my tiny little nation in Scandinavia, Denmark. They're building the pipeline past the island Bornholm in Denmark. So, and by the way, if you ever have a chance to go on holiday to Bornholm, do it. Just do it. I sound like, what's his name?
Do it! Just do it!
It's a beautiful place. Honestly, it's such a unique, tiny little paradise. Okay, let's get back on track. More than half of all of these 100 plus companies are actually from Germany. So there's no chance in reality that the assassination attempt of one politician was ever going to cancel a huge deal like this. And perhaps more importantly, it also means that there probably won't be any action by Germany to clearly find out who exactly did this, because there's so much money involved. And I don't like to be cynical, but I don't think that this guy is going to get any kind of investigation that actually finds anything out. And even if it does, I don't think any justice will be carried out. I tried to look into why the CIA would actually be the ones in charge of this whole thing, just like the Kremlin is accusing the United States government of, right? I just don't see it, because I don't see the upside for the CIA. The Kremlin is saying on one hand that the CIA is working with Navalny, but on the other hand, Navalny came very close to dying. He was in a coma for a long time. And I don't think Navalny would be up for risking his life and potentially never coming back if he couldn't continue the fight, because he's been fighting against the Russian government for a long time. So he's genuine in his fight. The CIA might have helped him in terms of pushing against the Russian government. That wouldn't be too far or like too far-fetched, right? You can imagine that the CIA would be supporting anyone who's trying to overthrow some of the power that Putin and the Kremlin has in Russia. Just like Russia would probably try to do the same in the United States, right? In the end, I don't think so. I think Navalny just stirred the waters in Russia, and that's about it. But I'll leave that one up to you guys. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will be back tomorrow with another one as always. Have a great day, and remember to enjoy the small things in life. We're here for such a short time. That's it. I won't go too dark on you here in the very end. Bye.